Now.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to We the People of Eastern Kentucky. You've got Terry V. Salyer here, the V-Man, and I'll be one of your hosts tonight, along with
Christopher Cody Allen. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we got a special guest with us tonight, and it's real kind of above my pay grade, I guess you could say. Isn't that how they say it, Marcus, in the military or whatever? But we're going to talk about cybersecurity. You know, one of the big issues that we have is identity theft and all that kind of deal. There's a lot of people and a lot of that's going around. So one of your all's questions was, hey, how can I stay away from this? You know, what can I do if it happens to me? And tonight we're going to discuss some of those questions with Marcus when he comes up here second. One thing I want to say tonight, we are so appreciative. In the last 4 weeks, our viewership has gone crazy. Has it not?
Skyrocketed.
Yeah. And we have you all to thank for that. And anytime that we run an ad out there and things to where we want you to share and follow us, we've got a tremendous response in the last 28 days, over a 600% increase. So evidently some of the things that we're doing you want to hear out there and stuff. But most importantly, the three factors that we try to do here on We the People of Eastern Kentucky is, number one, economic development. If you have some things that are going in your area, businesses that are doing well, we'd love to have them come aboard as guests. 3 out of the 4 weeks, we have usually guests come in and talk about their particular profession or experiences that they've got. And we also do community activeness. You know, we want you all to get involved with the community out there and tell us about what's going on out there, because some of those storylines and things that you have out there might be able to impact other communities in our area, particularly here in Eastern Kentucky. There's a lot of great things going on. And last but not least is political impact. We want to bring to you some of the things that's going to impact you from the political standpoint. We've got a lot of great guests coming up in the next few weeks. And next week on the 16th, we're going to have an organization out of Hazard. But they represent McGoffin County as one of the 6 counties that they serve. It's called CASA. And what they do is they deal with abused children and place them through the court systems with volunteer people in homes and things of that nature. They're going to be coming and sharing a little bit about their organization and how if you have someone that fits that criteria or whatever, you can get that information from them next week. And then also our representative here in McGoffin and Knott and also parts of Pike County, Representative John Blant will be here on the 23rd. And they have just concluded, or coming up to conclude, on April the 14th, he was telling me, this session of the legislature, and he's going to come and share with us some of the legislation and all that has been passed or what was going through the legislature in Frankfort and how that will possibly impact us on our local levels here. So John's going to be able to come and share that on the 23rd. And then we have our big 30th. 4th week of a month. Questions and comments, emotional outbursts.
Ask me anything episode.
Ask me anything. And so anytime between now and then you have a topic of things you want to discuss, and that's usually where we get into our political time, to where we can talk about some of the things that's happening. There's been a whole lot happening. Of course, we know the big news today. Coach Cal's moving on, and that's all we know right now. There's no official announcement where he's going, but he has left BBN, and so we're going to be seeking our next men's basketball coach, so stay tuned. We may have some questions and answers for you on that when it comes up on the 30th.
Follow Appalachia Insider and the We the People of East Kentucky podcast to find out what's going down with that.
That's right. And then May the 7th, we've got our sheriff here in McGoffin County, Sheriff Bill Mead's going to come and share some of the philosophies and things that they're working on, and how his department, by him coming sheriff in just latest election, some of the things that he's got going as far as law enforcement and things of that nature in our area. So got a busy 4 or 5 weeks coming up, and we appreciate your all's input. We really do. And these are some of the guests that you have wanted to invite to get information. Another one down the road, we haven't been able to tie him down yet, is Judge Matt Wireman. He's going to come, and we'll actually probably do that podcast from the fiscal court up there. There in downtown in Salyersville there at the fiscal court. But Matt will be coming up. And then we also have Grover Arnick's going to come and share some things about Social Security. And as we know, Social Security is coming around that time and of year when we start talking about taxes and all that craziness. But if you're like me, one of those old codgers, Social Security is important. And as we know, in the campaign years and the political aspect, Social Security is always something that's a major focus on as far as platforms and agendas and things of that nature. But without further ado, what we want to do is get into our special guest tonight, and I'm going to let you introduce him if you don't care there.
Absolutely. I reached out to my friend Marcus to see if he was interested in coming on the podcast. Marcus is what I would call an IT expert. A lot of the podcasts that we've had so far, we've discussed a lot of the new technology coming into East Kentucky. We've mentioned the fact that they're talking about nuclear power. We've mentioned the fact that they're looking at doing a large battery type facility. They're also building the battery facility in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
All of these things are pushing the envelope of technology in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
With that, there will be a lot of technology coming into the area that the local populace is going to start picking up and using. So one of the things I wanted to know was, how can we protect ourselves from bad actors online? And as far as it goes, other than our wonderful producer, Big John Howard, one of the people that I know that is probably the most up to date on cybersecurity personally is Marcus. So, Marcus, if you don't mind stepping in here, we look forward to having the conversation.
Welcome, Marcus. We appreciate you all coming tonight. Yeah. Clap, clap.
Say professional. I ain't done it professionally in a while, but I'll do my best.
There you go.
See how it
There
goes.
you go. Well, Marcus, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you a McGoffin Countyan, or where's home, and how did you get to where you were and get into this field or whatever? So.
Well, I grew up in McGoffin County, went to school, graduated here,
Okay.
and went to join the Army when I graduated high school, and I did 6 years there as an IT specialist.
Great.
And after my time was up, I did my 6 years, I decided I needed to come home, and because we had a child at the time. We had a child while I was in the military, and so I decided it was important to come home and be a dad, and also help take care of my parents because they were getting older and needed help with certain things around the house. And so I've been working at the Board of Education now. I worked at Mineral Labs for a little while, and then I went to the Board of Education in 2013.
Here in McGoffin,
Here in
the
McGoffin.
school district.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've been working there
Great.
since then.
Good. Super.
Marcus, it brings up the point, we were talking about this a little bit earlier while we were, off camera, but it brings up the point, you look at me, you look at Terry, which Terry's not originally from McGoffin, but this is home for him. You look at me, you look at John, look at you, Terry. We've all branched out, we've gone out, we've picked up new skills, but somehow we keep getting drawn right back here to home.
Oh, yeah.
It's always kind of amazing me how McGoffin County just pulls you back in, and it's just home.
Well,
Go ahead.
I can't speak for everybody, but it's like I said when we were talking earlier that besides, my parents, and one of the reasons I wanted to come back here is I just decided that at least at that point in my life I'd had enough of living in apartments with people on the other side of paper-thin walls, and I wanted nothing more than to get out in the hills and get away from people, because I can do people in short bursts, but I'm not a people person long-term.
I'm kind of movie buff. I guess you could kind of sum that up with what the old Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, said there. What'd she say?
There's no place like home.
No place like home. That's right. Yeah, cool. Well, how did you get into cybersecurity? How did that, was that an interest to you through school that you looked at, or Marcus, or what?
Well,
How'd you get into that?
I'll tell you where I've always sort of been into technology. Like John could tell you that. We were in Tracy Prater's class forever. But specifically, what really kind of spurred me to start researching and learning more about privacy and cybersecurity was 1 year I decided to do a Google Takeout. And if you don't know Google and other software providers, they're legally required to let you download a copy of your data. And so I did my Google Takeout. Now, they have changed their practices since I've done this. So what you find, if you do one, and what you find in yours may not be the same.
Yeah, but they no longer say do no harm.
But I found in my Takeout that they had made a record of every online purchase I had ever made.
Wow.
Because what was happening was I would buy something on Amazon. I got the receipt in my Gmail inbox, and it would have the tracking number, the item description, and Google was recording all of this: what I bought, how much I paid, where it shipped to,
Really?
everything. They were, even though the transaction had nothing to do with Google, other than my receipt came to that inbox. And I saw that, and I was like, And that's really the one event that I can think of that kind of, got it started for me.
Kind of like Big Brother looking over your shoulder, I guess.
Yeah.
Finding out where you're going and what you're doing.
And I don't think it would have been as weird if I had known going into it that, okay, they do this to target ads to do, but it wasn't made clear to me that it was happening, because that's the big thing to me is consent.
Yeah.
If you know somebody
Right.
is looking at something and you consent to that so they can provide, that's different.
Yeah.
But,
Well, at the time that you were looking into this, I'm sure that data mining and selling data wasn't really common knowledge. I mean, it wasn't for me at that time, I know for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't understand that a lot of these companies that provide this free service to us, we're the product.
Yeah. A lot of the time, if something, now not always, but most of the time, especially if it's from a corporation, if it's free, if you're not paying with dollars, you're paying with your information.
Right.
So,
Which turns out to be more valuable than the dollars.
a lot of times, yeah.
Well, that really, to me, can really almost be threatening to me. Somebody that's tracking you and looking at information like that, you don't really even have any idea that it's going on.
Yeah.
What do you think, Marcus, are some of the threats that individuals or businesses face today? You mentioned the deal with Google, but when we're looking on an individual basis or we're looking on a business perspective, what do you think are some of those threats that could possibly...
Phishing is one that's been around for as long as email's been around. Somebody sends you an email and it's like, hey, I'm totally really this person. Click this link. And I almost fell for one once from an eBay phisher. And they will build websites that look just like them. And I just thought it was a little weird that it was ebay.net instead of ebay.com. And so I reported it, and they actually got back to me. But phishing, because no matter how hard you try, somebody's going to click something eventually.
Yeah.
The smartest people will.
Oh, yeah.
Insider threats. A lot of companies let's say you're an administrator on the network at some company, and then you leave, whether you're fired or you go somewhere else, especially if you're fired, though, if it's under bad terms. If you don't delete their access, that person can come back into your network later and wreak havoc, sell the information. That's all happened before.
Wow.
And people using their personal devices for work is another big one.
Yeah.
Because you might be really conscientious about what apps you install and what permissions you give them, but the next person may not be.
Yeah.
And if they're working at a company that processes other people's information and then their phone gets compromised or hacked, that could be a source of leakage.
One of the crazy things to me lately is I stay on LinkedIn a lot. And because I deal with a lot of professionals there, and I am constantly now getting hit up with people that says, I saw you or I was referred to you by LinkedIn. And it's phishing because they said, oh, can we start a relationship? You can talk. Will you send me your phone number? And I'm like, no way am I going to do that. So, but it's happening.
I was listening to a podcast just the other day, and I'm sure you're familiar with this one, the old I'm an Arabian prince in jail, send me $500. So out of curiosity, somebody looked it up the other day, and how old is this? And this scam started in the 1800s.
I was saying probably through snail mail.
Literally through mail.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how long this has been around. And I remember the first time I ever saw one of these, I was in high school and I was at my aunt's house. And I got the, I can't remember, she was an African something or other, and she
Princess
needed me to
or
send her
whatever.
$500.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, the sad thing is there are some people that will believe this.
Yeah.
They will believe that you're going to start a relationship with this African princess or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, on LinkedIn, getting back to that too, I mean, some of the people that have contacted me, because I'm in the consulting business and I work with businesses a lot, well, they'll come up and they'll say, Terry, we're going to start a new business and we think that you'd be a great fit for us. Would you be able to contact us and all this kind of deal? And I'm sitting here thinking, that's just a person that's trying to fish the information that you can, because immediately I hit them back and I say, well, tell me more about your project or your company and your contact or your website and all that. And it's amazing that once you do that research and get back into it, where you can find. I had a drug company that contacted me. We're, from Europe and we're coming in and we want you to be able to, because you're a business development person, help us establish this business. Well, I contacted that drug company because I got some names and found out that none of those people work for that company. And they were actually then wanting my information so they could pursue going after them. So, I mean, it's a crazy world out there right now.
I had a conversation with a Washington Post reporter a year or so ago, messaged me on Twitter asking to do an interview regarding Kentucky Power and things. And even though she didn't ask for information, I was immediately suspicious because I'm like, I'm just some dude. I'm not. And so what I did was I went to the Washington Post. I looked up articles by that person, and then I looked for the Twitter link on the article on the Washington Post website and made sure that it referenced back to the Twitter account that was messaging me.
Yeah.
Because you never know nowadays.
That's right.
Well, Marcus, one of the things in the one of the full-time positions that I'm currently in, one of the things that my corporation does is send out randomly, and we never know when they're coming, a random phishing email. And if you click the link, it'll pop up and say, you're busted, you clicked phishing.
I've heard of that, yeah.
If you don't and you report it, it says, congratulations, you caught this phishing. This was So what are some other things that individuals can do to kind of protect themselves a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, if you're on a laptop, it's a little bit more difficult on your phone, but if you receive an email that you're not sure about on a PC, laptop, or a desktop, if there's like a link in the body of the email, you can mouse over that, because one thing people can do, they can write out in the text one address, say ebay.com, but then they can actually link that text to something else, and even though it says one thing, the hyperlink that it's pointing to could be somewhere completely different.
Wow.
And so when you mouse over it with the mouse on your laptop, it'll actually show, usually down in the bottom left corner or somewhere on the page, it'll show the target of that link.
Wow.
And are you expecting this email at all? Like, is this something that seems out of the ordinary? Were you expecting this email in the first place? Is there blatant spelling or grammar mistakes? And if you're on your phone where you can't check the target of the hyperlink, just don't click the link in the email. Just manually yourself bring up your web browser and go to the website that you know is right.
Yeah.
And try it that way.
And that was pretty much what I did in that situation that I had and stuff. Well, how can organizations secure maybe their networks and stuff like that to watch out for fishers? I guess you could say fisher of men.
Well, train users is a big thing.
Fisher of men.
Spam filters.
Yep, spam filters.
Yeah, that would be good.
And this is going to vary a lot, and this may lead into another question you've got later. So if I get ahead of myself.
No, you go right ahead.
But
you share with us your time.
Everything I'm about to tell you about, one of the things we did in the military is unclassified. You can find it on Wikipedia. But classified networks in the military, there's different ones. Even if they're tunneled over public networks like the internet, they do not have access to the open internet. So if you wanted to email somebody on a DoD network, you can't do that unless you're also on that DoD network. And so if you can't receive external emails in the first place, it's kind of hard to get a phishing email on a sensitive system. And so I think a lot of companies and organizations, especially if you're infrastructure, need to look into solutions that accomplish that task. Maybe not the same products or the same, but something that accomplishes that task, that to where personal information, critical infrastructure isn't on the internet in the first place.
So are you talking like VPNs and closed network systems, that kind of thing?
It's sort of like that. You'd have, a thing on either end that basically encrypts and decrypts the traffic. And so you may use one network as the backbone, but this network has no visibility into the endpoints, and the endpoints have no visibility outside of each other. It's basically like a worldwide intranet.
Okay.
So it kind of keeps people from hacking into the network, maybe,
Yeah,
or whatever, if you're on a secluded network.
Yeah, like if you're on a classified network, you can't just go to google.com.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing that you can do. And, I showed you that account on Mastodon the other day. There's a bot that looks for just VNC servers and takes screenshots. And there, you'd be shook to see moisture sensors in grain warehouses, voltages at power stations, and everything in the world just on the internet.
Yeah,
just there.
Available.
Marcus showed me this the other day. Now, go ahead and explain kind of what that is just a little bit.
Well, VNC is a technology that's sort of like remote desktop. It lets you take over your screen. And implemented properly, it's totally fine. I use it to check on my kids on their laptops. But it should not be something that is accessible via the open internet.
So Marcus brought this up and showed me the other day, and I was taking a look at it, and I get on, and someone had taken a picture of this and posted it on Twitter of this VNC that it happened to pull up. And one of the things that it pulled up, and we'll leave the state nameless, but it was a water tower in this state that had an alarm on it, that if this water tower is about to explode, the alarm's going to go off. And people on there, I'm reading the Twitter, people on there are going, must fight the urge to put off alarm water tower.
There's a button on it that says test alarm.
Yeah, test. They can literally get on and just beep, 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 beep.
But there's a, but my point is that there's a lot of things that have internet access that I think shouldn't. I've got somebody that I know personally who is a nurse at a hospital.
You hear about it a lot at hospitals and things.
Yeah, and they were a victim of ransomware.
Wow.
And they just paid it. And I've got several concerns with that because, one, a lot of the time with these ransomware groups, even if you pay it, their decryption software may work very slowly, where it's quicker to just restore from a backup anyway. It may not work at all. Sometimes that's the case. They may not even give you the key to do it and just take the money and run. And even if you do pay them and they do decrypt your files, there's no guarantee they just didn't take a copy of it to go sell on the dark web.
Basic child psychology dictates we don't reward bad behavior.
Yeah. So my concern is, even if this hospital is back up and running, there's a lot of other contingent possibilities that all stemmed from the fact that a system with personal information, people's medical history and records and all of that stuff had internet access. Yeah. And so.
Well, how can we, as I guess ordinary people or whatever, how can we protect ourselves from someone that's maybe trying to get into identity theft? I know that there's companies out there, but...
And now you also got to keep in mind that anybody that's trying to break into these systems are more than likely much more technologically savvy than the average, like me and Terry.
Well, there's a few things that I think anybody and everybody could or should do that aren't that complicated. One of the big things is you can freeze your credit. The three big credit agencies in the U.S. are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's a legal requirement that they have to offer you the option for a free credit freeze. Now, they will try to sell you a security lock and all these other products, and some of them may even obfuscate where the page for that is. But they all three, because I've done it, have the option to just turn on a freeze. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken, Experian anyway.
Yeah,
you can do one freeze and one free unfreeze per year.
No, I've unfroze mine several times. Like if I apply for credit,
okay. I think that's what they told me, but they might have been trying to sell me something.
Yeah, probably.
One of the things that I've seen in relation to that is, because I travel out of the country sometimes, we'll take a cruise or whatever, and immediately it's a block on my credit cards if I was to leave the country.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that I did. It was just an automatic thing that, my bank or the credit card company I was dealing with. So every time now when we leave the country, even if it's going to the Caribbean or whatever, we have to contact our credit card company and say, hey, we're going to be out. And they will ask you specifically, what are the dates that you're going to be gone? Yeah. And they will actually monitor that to see if there's any other charges that we're not aware of. Yeah, the fraudulent charges,
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually had something similar to that. I went down to Louisiana a while back. My brother and I went down there. We went to go buy a boat. And while I'm down there, it's a good thing I had some cash on me, because I get down there and I go into a gas station and I buy a bunch of, I don't know, it's maybe like $80 worth of junk and snacks. But, we had kids with us. And we're on a road trip.
Yeah.
And they locked my card down. So I call them, and it's on a weekend. My bank is closed, and this is more a local bank. It's not a national conglomeration. So I call them. I get through the automated system. I can't get nobody in the bank. I call the card service company, and I'm like, listen, y'all have locked me down here, and I'm in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the concept of, hey, we're protecting you. We're getting charges out of Louisiana. Where's this coming from?
Yeah.
But it could have been a problem.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was going to clarify about the credit freezes is they don't affect your ability to use your credit card.
Okay.
What they do is they basically stop people from running your credit or opening new credit accounts. But say you already have a credit card, you can continue to use it as you normally would. It doesn't.
Okay.
And let's say you want to apply for a new account with somebody. All three of them have the option. Now, one of them, I don't remember which one. I think it's Equifax. Just has a toggle. You can just turn off the freeze. And the other ones have an option to schedule it. I want to unfreeze my credit between this block of time, and then it will automatically refreeze.
Okay.
And so if you want to apply for something and you know you're going to apply for a credit card, it literally takes 2 minutes to go lift the freeze, make your application, and then refreeze it.
Wow.
And so
That's
that's the biggest thing, because in all likelihood, especially considering AT&T was breached in 2021, it was recently announced. AT&T tried to deny it forever, and they finally admitted it. A couple weeks ago, whoever it was that had it just released it for free to everybody. And so if you've been an AT&T customer around that time, your information is probably already out there.
Wow.
So a safe bet is just assume your information is already there and try to limit what people can do with it. So
Now, what could, that's kind of on the personal side, what could a business do? Is there something that they could put in place, or contact a third party, or what could they possibly do to prevent, a cyber security breach or whatever? What do you think?
Wait. First and foremost,
Yeah.
they could contact techholler.com for all their cybersecurity and IT needs.
Ooh, techholler.com.
there you
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you
you're
know
fine.
that company or something?
I am familiar with the company.
Oh, okay.
Our fabulous producer, Mr. John Howard, is the owner and operator of techholler.com.
Well, let me ask you, isn't that a sponsor? Don't they sponsor us?
I feel like that might be a sponsor.
Oh, my goodness. Well, what we got to do is
Let's go ahead and
refer
run
people
through.
to them.
Let's go ahead and run through our sponsors. Our sponsors
Yeah.
are Granny Made Cheesecakes, BML Business Alliance, techholler.com. And what else? There are more. We'll go over them towards the end. Appalachia TCG.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one. Tabletop Game. Marcus, you've been hitting that quite a bit here.
A couple times. I haven't been every time they've been, but I've stopped by a few times.
Pretty good time. I've stopped in. I've stopped in and checked it out. It seems everybody getting together, nice family friendly environment, enjoying games and board games and cards, stuff like that. It's a good time.
Well, we appreciate the sponsors that we do have, but I think really the way that we're growing and the reach that we're having, there will probably be opportunities for businesses out there, and that's pretty much like what Cody was talking about. My company is BML, and we're a business alliance, and we're a consulting firm that works with businesses and things of that nature. That's why it's intriguing to have you, Marcus, here with businesses and things. But your business might want to sponsor. We the people of Eastern Kentucky, we'd love for you to do that. You can contact us and ask us about that in the future. But we're growing, and we'd love for you all to be a part of it as a sponsor to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Do you know anything about that, or you want to
Well, I was
finish up
going
what
to
you...
reference your last
Go ahead.
question there
Go ahead.
about organizations.
Yes, businesses, yeah.
Train your users, on a regular basis. Don't just do it when they're hired and then forget about it.
Okay, yeah.
Because people forget.
A refresher course.
Yeah, and it's not even just about rehashing old information, because things are going to change and progress, and you need the opportunity to say, this is what's been happening, or this is what has happened, and this is what we've seen. And a lot of it ties into what I talked about a while ago. Especially if it handles personally identifiable information, or PII, if it doesn't have to be on the internet, don't put it on the internet in the first place. Or if it does, do it in a way, like I said earlier, where it doesn't have outside internet access, if you can.
Almost like a dedicated line or whatever.
Yeah, like I said with the classified networks, where they, I was going to say, update all your systems, and if it's a phone or something that is not getting updates, I would replace it with an upgraded one. If you're not equipped to handle, say you're a small business and you don't have the money or just the manpower to handle a lot of this stuff, it's okay to outsource it. There's a lot of companies out there that will do things for you. There's cloud providers that are reasonably priced for a lot of things. Like you said, techholler.com. I think you're doing a couple of things with various businesses, aren't you?
Yeah, outside of
Yeah.
8 to
And so, instead of having like a full-time employee on your payroll,
Right.
Maybe outsource to somebody that's a little bit more versed in what you're doing.
That goes into, one of the big things in businesses is preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Whether it be a HVAC unit, electrical, or whatever, we often forget it would be good to bring somebody in to analyze, someone like you or somebody like John, to come in and almost look at your system and preventative maintenance, scope it out and say, hey, these are things that I suggest, that might be better for you to be able to thwart off an attack or whatever. So, there's not a lot of references, I don't think, in our area to do that. So, Tech Holler would definitely be a person that could come in and look at your system and probably give you some great suggestions and stuff.
And I was going to mention, when he mentioned updates, I was going to mention that. I've got it further down on my list here, but I'm not going to name the person or the organization.
Sure.
But it's a correctional institution that I was told recently that has machines running Windows 7 on the same network with machines that handle
Windows
personal
7.
information
Oh, my goodness.
and has internet access.
Wow.
And Windows 7 has not received security updates in quite some time.
Jeez.
And so
just asking for it.
it's just waiting,
Well,
for,
All right, that goes to a personal question. So, for example, my daughter is young, and she is young to the point that I don't feel she's ready for an actual like iPhone or cell phone. But I did buy her an iPod.
Okay.
It's no longer receiving updates. And apparently, Apple iPods are no longer receiving updates. Now, this to me still seems like a good piece of technology, and I'm not ready for her to make the transition to a phone yet.
Yeah.
So, what would you recommend on a personal level for something in that
Just-
sort of situation?
Don't let her use it on the internet. If it's not on the internet and it's just a standalone device that you just put music on,
Well,
then
now
that reduces the attack
this
surface.
is the touch, and she likes watching Netflix and YouTube
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. And now she doesn't get on a browser or anything
Yeah.
like that.
You can
I
put a
mean,
web filter on it.
yeah.
Well, I have done that. I mean, I've done some some basic security. She can't download anything without my permission. She,
Yeah.
the internet is all has the safety filters for no kind of adult content or anything like that on it.
Yeah.
But
I can tell you what I do, but now what I do is a little extreme, and most people may not do what I do. But one of the things that a lot of malware vendors and people just in general, one of the things they count on is you running old, out-of-date software. If you go to the Dollar General and you get their $30 Android phones that are still running like Android 9 and aren't getting security updates and are coming preloaded with all this stuff, there are people who go out looking for devices, counting on the fact that there's going to be devices that are out of date, that are vulnerable, and where an up-to-date device wouldn't be. And so, as a standalone device, not connected to the internet, it would be totally fine and functional. But it's, I can't tell you what to do with your kid, but what I do with my kids is I make sure everything's up to date all the time. And when their phones stop receiving updates, they'll get different ones. So
you've
that
convinced me.
leads into another question I think is good, like what we're saying.
Yeah.
How can the normal person or a small business or anybody like that, is there ways that they can detect, Marcus, something happening to their device or whatever? What are some things for them to look for to say, hey, you got somebody that's trying to tap into you? I know on my computer, I've had that happen to me a couple times. So, somebody's trying to hack into what you've got.
What are you talking about?
This part goes out. This part goes out to Big Tony Allen because he's afraid to open links on Facebook that we send him.
that's good. This is a nuanced question because there are intrusion detection systems, but those are usually aimed at guys like me and John that are like running the network and the server. They're not really aimed at the average end user. Just abnormal behavior of your device, apps or programs that you didn't put there, files missing. You can also sign up for services like I think, what's it called? LifeLock, I think is one of them. There's other services like that.
Yeah.
There's one called Incogni and Delete Me that will basically watch for your information out there.
I mean, will they show up like, oh, we detected a virus or something?
They won't tell you that they detected a virus on your device.
Yeah.
But there are anti-malware programs for your devices, Bitdefender, Avira.
Do you like Malwarebytes?
Malwarebytes, I usually use it for standalone scans, but I don't keep it installed usually.
It sucks now.
I don't want to get into the weeds about, specific products, because honestly, on my laptops, I don't use one.
Hashtag just fans, not endorsements.
If you're an AT&T customer, I'll tell you one that I have on my kids' devices. It's called AT&T Active Armor. It's got a basic antivirus that will scan apps. But one of the other things it does is it allows me to stop incoming calls from numbers that aren't in their contacts list.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. So
That's nice.
Well, most wireless providers, I guess you could probably
Have a
go up here to
comparable-
Appalachian and say, hey, what do you have to prevent?
they have comparable products from each. Yeah, AT&T's is called Active Armor. I don't know about the other carriers because we're on AT&T.
Well, the key thing there is for the people that's out there listening to us tonight, if you're not sure, it's an opportunity for them to go to their wireless provider and say,
And
hey,
ask,
do you have any shields and stuff like that can notify me?
Yeah.
And,
Now, there are services that can also, like I said, besides Incogni and Delete Me, that usually they go out and they'll look and delete information about you and try. But there is a service ran by a guy named Troy Hunt called Have I Been Pwned? It's haveibeenpwned.com. And basically, you give it an email address, and if your email address has appeared in any data breaches, it'll basically give you a rundown of all the data breaches and steps that you should take to rectify that.
wow.
But as far as detecting an ongoing hack on your system, that depends a lot on the type of device, the operating system, and the type of attack. And the scary thing is, a lot of the times they're not caught until after the fact.
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
AT&T breach, they swore straight up and down for years it didn't happen. And when the guy released it and they realized it did happen, at least last time I looked, they still said they don't know exactly where it came from. And they're $1 billion, corporation.
Absolutely. One of the biggest.
And so it's
That's one of the most terrifying things about these massive corporations that are keeping your personal data in storage like that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Google and how that had your personal data, or we know some of the big credit companies, Experian, TransUnion, all those, we know they've had breaches. And this is all your information that somebody can just go in and snatch at any time.
Now that gets into, and I don't want to jump ahead.
Share with us, what you got up there, because
One of the tips that I had up here was basically be picky about what information you give to people. There's some services that I use to sort of put a buffer between me and the real world, to sort of keep my information from getting out there in the first place. Now, this is not an endorsement of these services. There are other services, but these are the ones that I use. One of them is privacy.com. And it's free for most personal purposes. You can pay for more things, but what it does is it creates virtual credit cards. And so you link it to your real debit card, and then I create virtual ones for Amazon.com and Walmart.com. And then I use those virtual cards on those sites just like I would any other debit card. But the thing is, let's say my Amazon account gets hacked. I can go turn off the Amazon card, and all the other ones are still fine, and it's had no impact on my real debit card.
I got you.
And so it allows you to sort of create a buffer.
And it's privacy what?
Privacy.com.
Okay.
There's
That's
another.
pretty simple. We should be able to remember that.
Yeah. And there's another service that I have not personally used that I've heard that does the same thing called MySudo. I think it's MySudo. I believe that's what it's called. You might have to double check me.
Oh, it makes sense. Pseudonym is another name that you go by.
Then the other one was we've lost myself here. Simple Login is one that I use for email addresses. Does the same thing for email addresses that Privacy does for credit cards. And so, like, my Facebook account doesn't have my real email address. They have a special one that's made just for them, and then anything that arrives there gets forwarded to my real one.
Well, I know Apple offers that service.
Yes, Apple does offer that service. And you can do that with aliases on most of them, but I like the Simple Login because I can just click a button and it just generates one for me and saves it to my account. But then the same thing as with the credit cards. If my Facebook account gets hacked, they don't have my real email address, because that's a common attack vector. Is let's say your email address is Cody@gmail.com and your password is Cody1234, right? And so let's say that's your credentials for your Facebook account. If somebody hacks your Facebook account and they realize that those are your credentials, the first thing they're going to do is let's see if this is the same password that he actually uses on that Gmail account, and the same password that he also uses. They're going to try that email and password combination on a lot of different places.
Yeah.
And so by changing up the email address that's associated with each service, it makes it more difficult to attack.
Yeah, one of the services that I have, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but one of them that I have in particular says if you have the same password being used on multiple different programs, it will say you're using this password on multiple programs. Consider changing the password.
Yeah, there's password managers that I highly recommend to everybody. I use one called KeyPass, but it's a little bit more technical. But there's others that are easier to use, like Bitwarden, 1Password, ProtonPass, because generally speaking, people suck at passwords. Most people, it's going to be some combination of your name, your kid's name, your dog's name, your birthday, their birthday, something that somebody with time and could brute force in no time. And so password managers make it easy to both generate good passwords and to remember them, because I don't know my passwords. The only password I know is the one of my password managers.
Minimum 13 characters or something like that.
The rules vary depending on the site, but I would recommend. Go ahead.
I think a rainbow table, you can get 12,
Yeah.
so.
And especially with AI, is right. It remains to be seen, but AI seems sort of like spell check on steroids.
Yeah.
Now see, I'm different than you on that one, Marcus. I think.
Well, what I'm saying is that it can be able to take information because normal brute force attacks, usually they'll run off of a list and it'll just run down the list. Try this password, no. Try this password, no. But where an AI might be able to look at it and come up with something that's not predetermined or set in that list.
That's what I'm worried about. What are you going to do when you have your 13 character password and then you've got a supercomputer going in here and just cracking everything?
Passwords eventually, it's just all gonna
Yeah.
It's all going to be
Passwords are gonna
biometric
go
scans
be
or something.
biometrics or something.
And one thing you can do now, though, before we get to that point, is two-factor or multi-factor
Yeah, 2FA.
authentication.
2FA is required
Yeah.
at this point.
Well, everybody anymore that you go in and share, even if it is a password or an email address, they'll send you a code that you got to
Yep.
get back to them.
Yeah.
Oh, I have had some trouble, though, with two-factor authentication. There are a few sites, we will leave nameless,
Yeah.
but the only option they have for their second factor and two-factor authorization is we're going to send you a text message.
Yeah.
And if I have bad signal, I can't get on.
Well, it's not just that, and this won't affect most people, but if you're being specifically targeted for some reason because you're the CEO of a company or something to that effect, SIM swapping is a thing. And there have actually been recorded cases of people either social engineering their way into, calling up a cell phone carrier and pretending to be you and being persuasive on the phone. Usually it's a female because men won't say no to them for some reason. But
That's
they'll
interesting.
social engineer their way into getting control of your account and saying, this is my new SIM card number, put my phone number on here, and then they can receive your messages.
Wow.
Well, I mean, not to get into conspiracy theories, but we were a few conversations back. We were talking about Tucker Carlson. They believe that's what happened
Yeah.
when they say that he got breached. Is that
Yeah.
someone just basically cloned his phone?
Well, and I was going to talk about that later, but Signal being end-to-end encrypted, it's end to end, so that nobody in the middle. But if there's malware on one of the ends, checking what's on that device, the messages have to be decrypted on the phone, or else you can't read them.
That's true.
And so, but two-factor authentication.
Get in the game, son.
Password managers and 2FA is like the bare minimum I recommend everybody do. And if they offer the option to use an app, I think Apple has one. Google has Google Authenticator. There's an app called Authy. There's various different ones.
Most people, if they're watching this podcast right now, is probably familiar with two-factor.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead, just in case, and just kind of give just a simple summary of 2FA.
Well, there's three major kinds of authentication. There's something you know, there's something you are, and something you have. So something you know would be a password. Something you are would be biometric, your eye, your fingerprint or something. And something you have would be your phone. And so the way a lot of people prove that you have that person's phone is with a two-factor authentication app. So basically, say you log into your Facebook with your username and password. That's your first factor. And then the two-factor is going to be a code randomly generated for your Facebook account by the app on your phone.
Right.
And so if you don't have the code that they're expecting, they won't let you in, even if you have the correct password.
I've seen that.
So, do you like, on a personal level, do you like authenticator apps?
I have one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I prefer that to SMS. Because,
Absolutely.
like I said, SMS can be, if that's your only option, if the service doesn't offer any others, then obviously it's better than nothing. But it is vulnerable to several attacks. So.
Yeah, John and I, we ran into that problem a few times. John, check your email. Give me authorization. I ain't got service.
But you had a question you were asking about AI a while ago.
Well, yeah, AI is something that has absolutely taken things by storm.
Yeah.
And I really am concerned. We were talking earlier about the political ramifications because we understand recently, I don't know what you call it, the cloning or whatever of a voice interaction that they imitated Joe Biden on a campaign message, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even him or anything about it. The content wasn't there. And, with the upcoming election and knowing with some of the political predators that we have, I'm really concerned that there may be a lot of false material that's being out there. And to me, AI can be a big generator of that.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
there's
to branch off on that. I'm sorry, Marcus.
You're fine.
To branch off on that kind of, for example, we were mentioning companies that hold a lot of your information. Well, there are some companies that will literally hold your voice calls. So if these hackers get in and get this database of your audio, so for example, it would be nothing for this AI program to create an audio of anything for Joe Rogan, because there's hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of hours of him speaking.
Oh, yeah.
But now just a regular person, it'd be a little more difficult. There's not as much digital audio of them speaking. Terry and I, for example, the more we do this podcast, the more we create an audio history of us talking, so it'd be easier to be able to use it.
Yeah.
So you worry about companies having this data set that these AI generated voice people are going to be able to come in and just pull off and then use that's basically a form of biometric ID.
Yeah. I don't have a magic solution. We're at a point in the technology timeline, I guess you could say, where between AI advancing as fast as it is and quantum computing advancing, there's a lot of things about the way we've done things that are going to have to change in the near future. We were talking about the AI generated audio of Biden. There was a company in Hong Kong, and I don't think, at least the last time I looked, they hadn't released the name of the company. But they did an AI-generated voice or video call with the CEO of this company, telling this employee that he needed to go pay some bill, and sent $200 million and change to somebody else. And there's mechanisms in place nowadays called digital signatures. When you digitally sign a document, there's usually like an asymmetric key pair. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but the problem with those is that there are current new algorithms being proposed, but none of them have been standardized yet. Quantum computers theoretically would be able to break the algorithms we've been using for decades. And so there's not, we're basically trying to play catch up, but I think there needs to be there's going to have to be some sort of mechanism like digital signing or something that resembles it, that normal people can look at a video and know this was definitely released by the president or not, or was not.
Are we really technologically advancing to the point, like you've heard of the horseshoe theory?
Yeah.
Are we getting to the point, technologically speaking, that you're not going to be able to trust anything unless you're standing face to face with somebody with a handshake deal?
Some
Pretty
of
much.
it, yeah.
Well, the thing that concerns me on, the AI and stuff, it can be a very positive thing, because
Absolutely.
I've recently noticed on Facebook, there are companies now soliciting you to be able to put training videos together, like for your company on a procedure or a training, situation, and they're saying that all you have to do is give me like 2 sentences of your normal speech and all that, and you can select a figure
Yeah.
or a person, and you could develop your own training system of just utilizing what the training information is, and it will reproduce your voice and image to make it look like you're actually doing the training session. You had nothing to do with it.
And that's one of the big concerns I have, because we have mechanisms in place to prove authenticity of content. If you want to get into the weeds and verify digital signatures with the newer algorithms. But the thing is, most people either aren't equipped or shouldn't be expected to have to bother with verifying everything they see.
Absolutely.
But most people don't even understand it.
But we're getting to a point where there's already stuff happening that looks real, and how do you know it's not,
Well, the biggest concern that I have in technology, which I'm a technology lover, don't get me wrong, I'm ignorant of a lot of things, but we have failed, I think, as a country, and recent hearings up in Congress there's been no legislative control over social media, Facebook, X or Twitter or whatever you want to do. And now they've advanced so far that it's going to be very difficult now to come back and legislatively try to have those controls in place to do that. Well, to me, AI is the next phase of that, to where if we don't get off our hinds down there in Washington, D.C. and start passing some laws of regulation that's going to be able to safeguard some of these things, it's going to be out of control.
Well, that goes back to the conversation you and I were having earlier about needing to be the right person for the right time. So what you're talking about, do you remember specifically, I don't remember which congressperson it was, but they asked, it was either the CEO of Twitter or Facebook, how come they were getting Google spam? They had no idea what they were talking about. Why am I getting spam in my Google inbox? I don't know. I'm the CEO of Facebook.
I think that's a big part of our problem. And I understand you can't expect a politician to be an expert in everything they're ever going to legislate on.
Right.
But I think there needs to be some amount of technical literacy, especially considering the world that we live in.
Yeah, if you're controlling 90% of our economy, market, and world.
There's a woeful lack of technical literacy in Congress and in positions of leadership now. That's not to say none of them know anything, but on the whole,
And that worries me if we don't have people that's looking to police those right now, or even be in the beginning phase, and we're into technology like we are, of worrying about cybersecurity of ourself, our business, even in our own businesses of training. And there's nothing to say regulate somebody transposing someone else's voice or image in a reflection of who that person is. I mean, it's very fearful.
It is.
It's very threatening personally. Yeah. So, where are we going to now?
No,
it is 7:52.
I'm done. I'm through my list, buddy.
Well, let me go back up here.
Yeah, get up here and share some other stuff with you.
Marcus, go ahead and drop some major nuggets, like things that you feel like people should know.
I'm just going to go down the list here.
Yeah.
We talked about password managers. We talked about 2FA, freezing your credit, ad blockers.
That's
and this is
uBlock.
Yes.
I was going to say, this is a thing that's controversial because I make money from YouTube videos and advertisements played on them.
Yeah.
But even the FBI has recommended that you use an ad blocker. Now, there's a dozen different ones. I use uBlock Origin.
Me too.
It's an add-on for your web browser that you can use. And the reason being, it's not just to block the ads themselves, but a lot of advertisements are not like hard baked into the website. Like I know your website.
Right.
You have put a little image that says Farmhouse Diner, but you put that image and it's hosted on your web server.
Right.
Most websites, what they'll do is they'll allot a space on their website and sell that space to whoever company. And then they'll just reference whatever ad is on that company's server. And there have been multiple instances of malicious advertisements. Bringing malware. So the FBI themselves recommended that you use an ad blocker, and I have for years. So.
Well, one thing out of tonight that I would suggest, I know that we've got people out there listening to us tonight, from the personal standpoint, but also business. And Marcus, you've been so great to share a lot of the information. There may be some of you out there tonight that will email us with some of the products or some of the websites that these people can go to. So if you have a particular question, we'll be able to go back with the information that Marcus has supplied us and might be able to help you or lead you or direct you. You know, like Tech Holler could do something like that, John, if somebody was to email and say, look, hey, I want to know about blocking my ads, or I want to know about how can I protect my emails and stuff like that. This would be a great opportunity for you out there in the listening audience, and it goes along what we're trying to do here. I mean, we're trying to share information that the normal person just does not know.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can get technical, but there are things out there that can really be a benefit to them personally or even to their business. If you are a small business or whatever, operating here in Eastern Kentucky, give us your feedback on that, and we'll try to get you that information.
Now, just to clarify, techholler.com is business IT. It is not personal.
No
IT.
personal? Got you.
I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
If the
Last
money's
time I
right.
talked to the CEO of techholler.com, he said it was business IT.
It is business.
Well, you know, my thing is this.
We do buy computers too, by the way.
They're out of this, and I think we can see that there's a lack
Oh, absolutely.
of expertise and a lack of people that can help you with the things that we're describing. And there may be some other businesses out there that are doing, you know, what we're talking about or discussing, that they can contact us and say, look, you know, I have a business, I can do this, I'm in this geographic area. Because, you know, we the people of Eastern Kentucky, we have a lot of followers and people around McGoffin County and the Salyers-ville area. But we're now starting to get, I mean, we had somebody in Indiana the other day hit us up, become a follower. Lexington, Kentucky, there's a lot of people there. Down in Hazard, we're going to be having a lot of guests in that area. So we're branching out now with this information that there may be somebody out there that can, you know, build upon what we're trying to get you. Or if you have a question, we'll find you someone. If you have something that there's not a business out there that could do that, we will do our best. And that's basically what I do with my company, with BML Business Alliance. You come to me with a problem or try to solve something, and we get you the solution. And even in this cybersecurity aspect of it, I know that, you know, where you're at now, you know, Marcus, it may be something that on the side you could develop into a company or whatever you see to be able to help some of these people based on what our people out there are explaining to us. So that's what we're looking at. There's a drastic need, as we've talked about tonight, but we need some solutions. You know, we're not wanting to be somebody to come up here and, yeah, we got a problem, this it is. You know, you hear people complain all the time, well, I don't know how to do all this, but, you know, there's no solution. We want to be able to provide to our listeners out there on our podcast here, we want to help you with your solution. And because they may not have it and all that, so all they got to do is get back with us on that.
And I'm on Facebook. Now, I don't keep the apps on my phone, so if you send me a message on Facebook, I will respond, though it may be, you know, after I get home and fire my laptop up. But if you've got questions for me specifically, I don't care a bit to respond and help people out, answer questions.
Great.
And that's I want to go ahead and drive that point home, is that if you're a small business owner here in East Kentucky, because small business, as most people know, you know, with COVID and stuff like that, there has been a massive increase in entrepreneurship, people starting up small businesses and make a little extra money on the side. If you're a small business and you have a network set up and you do your work over the internet or something like that, reach out to a company or reach out to someone who is a cybersecurity expert and say, okay, how do I protect me? Because it's, and I don't want to sound too dystopian or too scary, but really it's not that hard of a thing to someone unprotected to take everything you have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bank accounts and all that.
The biggest thing is preventing it in the first place. You know,
Absolutely.
like I said, freeze your credit, use your password managers, use 2FA. You know, basically you want them. Everything that's on the internet is vulnerable. But if you make it hard enough to get into your stuff, they'll just move on to somebody that's easier. And that's what you want.
This one's not worth it. Just go on.
Exactly. Like if somebody wants to hack my server at the house that I use to host my personal cloud and stuff, if somebody really wants to get in,
I'm on it.
To my personal server, and they're going to get in. Right. Eventually, they will find some way in. But if I make it hard enough that they just decide it's not worth the effort, then I've succeeded. You know, that's all you can really do.
Well, one of the things I don't have to worry about is somebody hacks my bank account. There ain't nothing in there for them to get. So I guess that would be.
I've said that for years. Somebody have to float.
They'll put some
somebody
money
have
in
to-
there.
There
Feel
you
sorry.
go. Put it
Can
in
you
there
float
for
me
me,
alone before you
please.
rob me, please?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Marcus, you've been really helpful. And I appreciate your time with us tonight. And we've done a great service to, I think, our people out there. And most importantly, like we said, if there's a situation that you need help as far as a business, personally or whatever, get back to us because, like we said, that fourth week of every month, we address questions and answers. If there's additional information that you'd like to have, and it's like Marcus and I were talking earlier, based on what we've shared with you tonight, there may be questions that you have where down the road we could address more specifically, that area to try to help you. Get back to us, y'all. Give us your feedback. Let us know where you're at. Let us know if this was helpful. I mean, it was really good for me to be able to know that there's tools out there that we can be able to help utilize to protect ourselves from cybersecurity hacks or whatever. So we appreciate you and the time that you come, and thanks for sharing everything with us tonight.
Okay, no problem.
And folks, we'll see. I think that's it. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, and stay tuned because we've got some great guests and all that. So with that, we'll say goodnight. Pray for our basketball team that we get sent the right person, and we'll see you next week.
Drew Scott's looking like right now.
Yeah. Drew, I hope we don't get Drew.
That's what KSR just reported like 20 minutes
Well,
ago.
KSR, oh my gosh, can you believe Mac Jones? Come on. But I know that they were after him, but I'd
Apparently
rather have
that's who
Billy
they've
Donovan.
already called.
I'd rather have Billy Donovan.
Matt, call me.
Yeah.
Well, good night, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week.